Howie Roseman is not messing around, people. Not messing around. Ndamukong Suh, Suh, I don't know how to say his name. Another piece of reinforcements for this Eagles defense brought in. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk Eagles, Colts, Sixers back at it tonight against Milwaukee. So much happening. Trending in the AM starts in 30 seconds.
Holding, gets around in front. Joel Embiid intercepted.
And Philadelphia has it.
And a very good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. Live, Facebook, Twitter, maybe? I don't know. Who knows? Twitter's almost dead. Maybe not dead. Who knows? Twitch, YouTube, we're live everywhere. Make sure you share, like, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. We'd greatly appreciate that. I am your host, Phil Stiefel. We got Jason Voorhees sitting next to me. We got lots to talk about today. Eagles reinforcements are coming, continuing to come. They got a big game this weekend against the Colts. Sixers back at it after a 4-day absence. Good morning, Jason. How you doing today?
Oh, another long week, brother.
Another long week.
Friday, and we're ready to roll.
That is right. So how do we say his name? Is it Ndamukong Suh? Ndamukong Suh? I cannot say his name, and I have never been able to say his name in his long history in the NFL. And I keep looking at it, and I keep like sounding it out phonetically, and I just can't do it. But
Ndamukong Suh.
It sounds awful when you say it like that, but it's kind of right.
King Kong Suh?
King Kong Suh? Is that what we're gonna call it? King Kong Suh?
Ndamukong.
We'll just say Suh. All right. So let's get started here. Howie Roseman. Obviously, yesterday I discussed the Linville Joseph being brought in as reinforcements on this defensive line. Obviously, Jordan Davis out. Tupelodu, another tough name to say, out on IR. Fletcher Cox struggling, being forced to play such a high, amount of snaps, Jason. So what does Howie Roseman do? He goes out and gets Joseph and Suh, two older veterans, but two formerly very good guys, to clog up the middle, to eat space up in the middle of the field. Howie Roseman, Jason, is not messing around one bit. He sees this as a huge opportunity for the Eagles to make a deep run, and he's putting all his chips in the table. And I have to applaud him for it. What are your thoughts on these moves that they've made the last couple of days to bolster this front four?
I mean, how refreshing is it to have a GM that actually wants to win and basically will do anything at any cost to get there? I mean, this guy is amazing. Like, I get it. Yes, they're two older vets. I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, these guys aren't going to have any kind of bearing on the game plan," and I disagree. I mean, I don't expect these guys to come in there and play 40 snaps, but if they can play together the Jordan Davis role till Jordan Davis gets back, I mean, that in itself is a win. I just look at the way that the team has played. Obviously, the sky was falling after the first loss, on Monday. That was all, we were all kind of at that point, like freaking out it wasn't that they lost. It was the way that they lost.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously getting beat by the running game was probably the biggest reason why. Mm-hmm. So you go and you get these two guys. I mean, they're both houses. I mean, they're both really, really, I know they're past their prime, but I do believe that, this is Howie Roseman kind of setting a precedent. And I'm not going to lie, this could kind of be a subliminal message, towards Fletcher Cox, like, yo, bud, we're not going to just sit back and let you just play and not do anything. Like,
you bring up Fletcher Cox, and that's interesting because obviously Fletcher Cox should never have been, put on the field for 70 snaps, on Monday Night Football. The fact that he played 70 of 83 snaps, that's insane. That's not on Fletcher. That's on Jonathan Gannon, Nick Sirianni, whoever's controlling the defensive line rotation. There's no need for him to be playing that many snaps. I know Jordan Davis is hurt, but you got Milton Williams, who was pretty effective in his approximately like 40% of the snaps out there, much younger, fresher. But do you think any of this was also not just how poorly Fletcher Cox played, but also if you really, I don't know if you caught his quote. He was asked the other day how he's feeling. And he's like, I'm freaking exhausted. I'm beat up. I'm worn down. Like, you don't want to hear your star player, and I'm not sure if Fletcher Cox is still a star at this point in his career, but he was a star. He's a big money guy. He's still considered, a star, kind of, sort of. If Jason Kelsey was beat up and banged up, Jason Kelsey would say, yeah, I'm banged up, but you know what? We got a job to do. We're going to go out there and do it. Fletcher Cox just kind of said, yeah, I'm spent, and didn't say anything else to follow up with it. Do you think him just blatantly saying, yo, I'm spent, I got not much left in the tank, but didn't follow it up with saying, but I'm going to dig deeper? Do you think any of that played a role into, because he didn't go out, Howie, and get one defensive tackle. He went out and got two. I think Fletcher Cox's comments kind of maybe influenced Howie to go all in instead of just getting one guy.
I mean, you're bringing up a very valid point, but I think it kind of goes both ways. If Fletcher's, kind of letting it out there that he's not well, he's as you said, exhausted, spent. I mean, I get it, but you're making $14 million, dude. Yeah, I get you're not the same Fletcher Cox of 2017, but you still owe it. If you're being paid $14 million and you're going to have that kind of an attitude, I'm not going to be too happy as the GM. So, right. Yes, I think maybe a little bit of both. I think you're right. I think maybe Howie's like, okay, well, I got to get some guys. But I don't think he's happy that he had to go out and get guys, because you would hope as your GM that your $14 million tackle would be able to do its job.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you saw the video I shared a few days ago on Twitter. It was a Dan Orlovsky, Mina Kunis, Ryan Clark, Marcus Spears. It was one of their football show they do on ESPN is actually really good. They have some really good discussions. They're not hot take guys. It's not a hot take show. You know what I mean? They do some really good breakdowns. And they were talking about how football is changing. We don't really realize it, that teams are actually running the ball a lot more than people realize. And they're running in between the tackles more than people realize. And they had the stats to back up their theories. And the reason why teams are doing this, because as bad as our run defense is, I think it's only like it's ranked middle of the field. We're not the worst run defense in football. It feels like it to us as Eagles fans, especially after the last couple games, but we're not. We're middle of the pack. And the reason why teams are running so much more is because the theory in football, if you look at the best defensive tackles in football, we'll just go with the best one, period. Aaron Donald. He's 275 pounds. He's an athlete. He's not what used to be of a defensive tackle. Defensive tackles and nose tackles used to be space eaters. They used to take up a lot of space, and that would cause problems running the ball in the middle of the field. Now teams realize, and they've kind of morphed in the last year or two, and they had the stats in the video that's posted on my Twitter page, to back that up. And that kind of shows why teams are running so easily against the Eagles, because you didn't have, once you take Jordan Davis out of the equation, you don't have somebody in the middle of the line that takes up space. So Howie is kind of almost, in my mind, like bucking the trend and getting Suh and Joseph, because he knows to stop the run, especially the next 3 weeks with Jonathon Taylor, Aaron Jones, and Derrick Henry. You need people that are going to eat up space in the middle of the field to stop these running backs. Jonathon Taylor is not a cut and bounce to the outside running back. He's a run straight forward at you kind of guy. Same thing with Derrick Henry. He's not juking and jiving his way to 200 yards. He's hitting the hole and pounding it right down the middle there. Do you think Howie's kind of seen this trend maybe a little before the other GMs are, and be like, maybe it's time to go back to these girthy, space-eating type defensive tackles, because it's not just the Eagles that are giving up these runs. It's the whole NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a flex by Howie. I mean, I don't in any way think that – I don't think it's that he's really ahead of the class in that. I just think he's kind of looking at his team, and he's looking at the biggest weakness that they have right now, which is against the run. I mean, you can look around the league and, there's teams that have bigger sized tackles. I mean, it's not like they're not out there. It's just, Fletcher Cox himself is pretty big. I think it's just more so the scheme that's the issue than the players. I think if Jonathan Gannon can adjust the scheme to fit the guys that you have, you don't have this kind of problem. I think that's really where we're at.
So here's the thought. So we got the Colts this weekend. First and foremost, they haven't really said it yet. I'm assuming because it was one day sooner. I'm assuming Linval Joseph will be suiting up on Sunday. We don't know if Ndamukong Suh, I think I got it right. Ndamukong Suh sounds pretty close to right. I'm not sure if he'll suit up on Sunday or not. Hopefully he does. I don't know if him getting there today and getting the playbook today is enough time to really get him ready for Sunday. But if you only got Joseph, even if you don't have either of them, what do the Eagles got to do? You say it's got to be Jonathan Gannon's scheme, but the players he puts out there still got to make the plays. We've got to find a way, in my opinion, to keep Fletcher Cox off the field. Not completely. You're not going to take Fletcher Cox off the field completely. But if you're taking Fletcher Cox from 70 of 83 and putting him at 45 out of 83, we've got to see more Milton Williams, in my opinion. And I think that's where it starts right there. Milton Williams, eventually these two new, veterans, eventually Jordan Davis back out there. Obviously, Javon Hargrave is playing pretty well, obviously. But I also want to mention the linebacker play, and I kind of dabbled in it a little on Monday Night Football, that there was a point this season that we thought TJ Edwards, had changed the conversation about us not needing linebackers and us having a plethora of them. But I don't think enough credit or lack of credit is being given to the fact that, in my opinion, these linebackers have kind of fallen down a little bit, especially TJ Edwards. He's really not performing to the level he was early in the season, missed tackles and whatnot. So I bring TJ Edwards up because you've got this guy that's known as a good run-stopping linebacker that isn't seeing the field at all in Nakobe Dean. Is it time for Jonathan Gannon and this coaching staff to maybe start considering putting Nakobe Dean out there, especially on run-heavy plays or goal line situations or whatnot?
I mean, why hasn't he been out there more? I get it, I guess, because TJ Edwards has performed so well and the other guys are doing well, so why fix what's not broken? But you make a really good point. Like, if the defensive tackles are getting all the blame for the running game, I'm not buying that. Because the bottom line is
obviously Fletcher Cox is struggling.
No, and I get that.
But if you go back and you rewatch that Brian Robinson touchdown where he basically Fletcher Cox had him and he just out-muscled Fletcher Cox. Where were the linebackers on that play in assisting Fletcher Cox? And that's kind of my beef right now, that these linebackers are not getting any criticism. And yeah, TJ Edwards played really well the first few weeks of the season. But where I can count multiple times a game the last few weeks, him just straight up missing tackles, him getting juked out of his shoes. It's time to start realizing that maybe he was just a placeholder like we thought. And I don't know why Nakobe Dean's not on the field, but it might be time to at least consider having packages for Nakobe Dean here.
Can it hurt is what I ask. His talent is exactly what they're missing. His talent is a ball hawk. He gets to the ball. He gets to the point of attack. So that's who I want. I mean, shit, it can't hurt. I'm not saying put him in there for 50 snaps, but at least give the guy some snaps. I mean, if you give the guy 15 snaps on running plays, maybe he makes one or two plays in the backfield. Like
at least when like when you get to the goal line and that team's going to pound the rock right up the middle at you because your defensive tackles stink and your linebackers can't stop the run. Why isn't he in there? So I don't think because he's obviously playing on special teams and he's out there. So he's not hurt at all. He's just not getting in the defensive rotation because they're stuck with this TJ Edwards, Kazir White, combo. And It's time. I think it's time to unleash Nakobe Dean. It's not going to look whether you're bringing it, to backtrack to Sue and Joseph being brought in here. You said that there's people out there that aren't super hyped. And I'm not. I want people to realize bringing in these two guys, older veteran guys, this is just to help. They're not superstars anymore. But on the flip side, it can't hurt to bring these guys in. It's only going to make us better. It can't make us any worse. Giving Nakobe Dean 20 or 30 snaps on defense isn't going to make us any worse. It might make us better, though. So that's the thing. You got to kind of look at the pros and cons. There are no cons. There are only pros to these situations. And I don't know whose decision it is. Is Jonathan Gannon one of those defensive coordinators, since Nick Sirianni's an offensive-minded guy? You see this a lot of times. When your head coach is an offensive-minded guy, the defensive coordinator is pretty much the head coach of the defense and has final say basically over everything. Is Jonathan Gannon that kind of guy? Does Nick Sirianni let him say, whatever you say, that's yours. It's your call on defense. Or is Nick Sirianni part of this conversation? Or is Howie Roseman part of this conversation? Because we know in the past coaches have complained that Howie Roseman dabbles in the game plan and the player usage thing. I don't know, but it can't hurt to use some of these guys like Nakobe Dean.
No, I mean, listen, that's why you drafted him. I mean, when we drafted him, it was like, oh my God, we hit a home run on the draft. We had the steal of the draft. And the guy's not even playing. I mean, yeah, he's playing on special teams, but
I do not think I think he had 1 or 2 snaps early in the season. I'm pretty sure he has not had a single defensive snap in the last 7 or 8 games.
Now, could this be a situation where Jonathan Gannon just doesn't like him? I mean, we've seen that where coaches don't like certain players. And
what it is exactly what you said earlier. It's the schemes. So, and in this video that I mentioned earlier about talking about defensive tackles and running between the tackles and not having girthy defensive tackles, they also brought up the fact that defenses as a whole across the league run these nickel and dime defenses so much more than they used to, which means you only have 2 linebackers, sometimes 1 linebacker on the field at a time. And if you're not going to run a prototypical 4-3 defense or 3-4 defense, maybe it's because Jonathan Gannon only wants 2 linebackers on the field at a time because he's got so many defensive backs out there. And that is the trend that NFL teams use. But again, TJ Edwards isn't bringing anything to the table to help these defensive tackles stop the run. So, again, instead of TJ Edwards playing 80 of 83 snaps, maybe he starts playing 50 of 83 snaps, and you give 25, 30 snaps to Nakobe Dean. Again, it might not work, but is it going to make us any worse, Jason?
No, I think you're at the point, like you just mentioned, that you have to try something. When your team, and like I said, I don't want this to be where we're really overreacting to the point where we're like overreacting.
Right.
Over 1 loss. I mean, they're still 8-1. But
we're not overreacting at all. I mean, they're 8-1. They're still the best team in football, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm just making sure because I think some people out there think after 1 loss that, oh my God, this team is just not good. And I'm not buying that either. I do think they came out flat. I'm disappointed in the way they came out. I mean, after a break, you would think that their mindset would have been, we gotta come out and win this. But Phil, I'll give you credit. You were one saying, don't be so positive that the Eagles are going to blow the doors off the Washington, Commanders. Mm-hmm. And you were spot on. I mean, they didn't roll over, but I do think that in this particular game, the Eagles more so lost it than Washington won it. Because I looked at so many opportunities that we missed mm-hmm. that we could have capitalized on. And, yes, I will say the refs, I mean, I hate to use excuses, but it was bad. Huh?
It's no excuse. You should never have been in those situations to begin with.
No, but I'm just saying it was bad. Like, I do feel bad about Goddard. I mean, because it's like we lose a great player and, that's going to be a tough loss. I don't know how he –
But I don't know why we're dwelling on last week's game. Let's ignore last week's game and focus on this week. So you got the Colts, and obviously we just spent all this time talking about bringing in Suh, bringing in Joseph. The goal is to stop the running game, obviously. Jonathon Taylor, I mean, if he gets going, could easily go for 200 yards against this defense. But they still have also Matt Ryan. They've got this whole situation with intern head coach Jeff Saturday, coming off the streets to be their coach. And what did they do? They came out and won last week. Yes, against the hapless Raiders. But, I mean, everything pointed to the Colts just packing it in for the season. Are you scared about the Colts at all? Are you scared that Matt Ryan, I mean, let's be honest, Matt Ryan, he sat 2 games because he was benched by, Frank Reich, still has over 2,200 passing yards. He's still averaging over 275 yards a game. He's still throwing near a 70% completion. So Matt Ryan is still a solid gunslinger back there. So you stop Jonathon Taylor, you still got to worry about Matt Ryan too. Is there any concerns? I mean, they've got 3 really good wide receivers in Pittman, Pierce, and Campbell. Are you worried one bit about anything other than stopping Jonathon Taylor this week?
No. I think
that's it. No, show's over. We're out.
I'm really not worried about the Colts. I mean, listen, yeah, I get it. They won, and Jeff Saturday's like, what do I want to call him, an enigma? Like, he's not, your prototypical coach. Obviously, he's a guy that they brought in because they think that he has a good attitude and he has that ability to kind of be a leader, which is fine. I mean, hey, it's the owner's money. He can do whatever he wants. But I don't see this team really being a threat unless we let Jonathon Taylor run wild. Jonathon Taylor is the one player that could change the tide for the Colts. Because if they run the ball and they play a similar style to what Washington did, they could keep the game closer. But I don't see a way. If there was any game to me where the Eagles should flip the script and just say Jonathan Gannon should just get out of his own way and say, okay, I'm going to let these guys eat, it's this game. Matt Ryan is one of the most statuesque quarterbacks, the most immobile quarterbacks. Like, this is the game where you should blitz. Like, it.
And they have, I forget his name, their left tackle, and Matt Pryor, their right guard. I've seen the stats online. They are 2 of the worst guys, 2 of the worst linemen, statistically speaking, on pressures and sacks given up this year.
Yeah.
So Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham on the left tackle, and whoever is going up against Matt Pryor, former Eagle right there. I mean, it's bad. I mean, they shouldn't just get after Matt Ryan. They should be like, yeah, they should be smashing Matt Ryan every single time. But the problem is when you have a great running game like Jonathon Taylor, does that alleviate some of the pressure, from that, that ability to get those sacks? So if you pin your ears back and just want to get after Matt Ryan and they start calling draw plays and stuff like that and they run it right up the middle, for as bad as Matt Ryan is and as bad as this offensive line is for the Colts, Matt Ryan's only been sacked 25 times. I mean, that's a lot. 25 sacks is a lot, but you would think that number might be a little higher. It's only 3 a game. So the running game of the Colts kind of changes that script as you would think it would.
Oh, I agree. It minimizes it, but I don't think you should.
Adam with some really good information here, by the way. Only 3 snaps he's played on defense all year. That's got to change, Adam. Absolutely. I knew this comment was coming in from Mark at some point. Absolutely. Disgrace, Matt Ryan. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just think it does minimize it, the fact that they have that good running game, but I don't think it should change your philosophy. I think that that Matt Ryan is basically an immoving target back there that you need to pin your ears back and that should be your philosophy. Now, yes, I get it. You're not going to come home on all of them, but I think if you can kind of dictate the way that you're going to play the game, it's going to all depend on if we can adjust and stop the run. Mm-hmm. If these guys, I mean, like you said, I don't know what the status is, if they're going to play or not. I mean, I guess we probably won't know until
Like Sunday. I said, my guess would be Joseph, because Joseph was there yesterday already, and he was in the locker room, and he has today for practice for sure. He might have even they had an afternoon practice yesterday, so he might have gotten some time with the team yesterday. But Suh has not even gotten there to sign his contract yet. Suh shows up today. to get his locker and his playbook and stuff like that. So there might not be enough time to get Suh in there. But again, Joseph and Suh are veterans of the game. It's not going to take much to get them involved. You can have a small package for both those guys. You know what I mean? Even if it's just for 10 or 15 plays.
No, I agree. I mean, listen, Howie's made a lot of good moves. It's just a matter of how will these moves all come together down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Because now that you made these moves and then you get Jordan Davis back, you're going to have so many players to put into like a little rotation, if that makes sense.
Fletcher Cox, we might not see too much of down the stretch,
which would be fine with me.
And I want to remind people, Jordan Davis. We were building Jordan Davis up snap count wise. Now him missing 4 games and it being because of an ankle issue, his cardio is going to be down. So we're going to have to start building back. So when Jordan Davis is available to play in a few weeks, don't expect Jordan Davis to come out and play 60% of snaps like instantly. He's going to be right back to that 35, 37% of snaps because his endurance and his motor won't be fully ready to go just yet.
Can we kind of be critical here a little bit though?
I don't know. It depends on who you want to be critical of.
So, and I don't know if it's misuse or he hasn't really played or hasn't picked up the defense, but what about Robert Quinn? I mean, here's a guy that we picked up, and I'm thinking, okay, I get it. He only had 1 sack in Chicago, and a lot of that could be, laid on the same thing that their scheme wasn't good or, he just wasn't getting home or whatever. And I don't expect sacks like the statistic, but he just doesn't seem like he's making a difference on this defense. And maybe it's just me.
No. I brought that up on Monday or Tuesday. I don't know if it's necessary that he's just not good anymore, but I think it goes back to what you've been talking about with the defense, as a whole. It's the schemes. I actually saw Robert Quinn drop back into coverage, just like Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick is back to dropping into coverage regularly again. It's not good. I mean, to me, it comes down to scheme to an extent. Robert Quinn's also not on the field that many times. I think Robert Quinn last game, there's 83 defensive snaps. I think he was on the field for 22 or 23 of them. I mean, how can you get into a rhythm? If you're on the field for 22 snaps, 2 of them you're dropped back into coverage. Some of them are running plays. So you really only have 10 opportunities to get after the quarterback. Not really being put in the best position to succeed, is he?
No, and I agree with you. But then if that's the case, then why trade for the guy? Because everyone was excited when we got him. And
well, you trade for the guy because Howie Roseman sees that this team can't get after the quarterback consistently. Brings in the guys to do it. But for some reason, Jonathan Gannon has so much control over this scheme and this system, and I just don't get it. But yet he's still on all hot topic lists as a head coaching candidate across the NFL. I just don't get it.
Mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling. All right. So continuing on with this Eagles game against the Colts. So we've spent a lot of time talking about the defense. Is there any, I mean, I'm looking at the Colts defense here, and there's barely even any names that I recognize. I mean, DeForest Buckner, he's getting older, but he's still a good, solid defensive tackle. Yannick, I'm not going to try to say his last name. He's bounced around a lot to a lot of different teams, but he gets after the quarterback a little bit.
Ngakwe?
Yeah, is that how you say it? Ngakwe? Wasn't he? He's been with the Eagles were even linked to him a few years back when he was on the trade market.
When he was with the Jags.
Was it the Jags? Yeah, and he went to the Vikings. I couldn't remember, was it Vikings to Jags or Jags to Vikings or what? But I'm just looking at their defense as a whole, and I really don't see anybody that scares me, that worries me, that's somebody that should be able to stop, this Eagles offense. And it kind of puts me in a spot thinking where we should be able to get our offense back on a roll this week.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm looking at this game. I've already pegged it as the Eagles are going to come out and they're going to kind of, I don't want to say go buck wild, but they're gonna put up some points on the Colts. I think coming off of a loss, I think Jalen Hurts is going to be even more hungrier. Mm-hmm. I didn't see the entire game because I obviously had to work, but I heard there was reports that during that that bad call that Jalen was very, very adamant on the sidelines. It's something that you don't see from him that often. But I don't think it's a negative. I think it just shows you like how much he cares, how much he wants to win. And you can bet that, the fact that they lost, he's the kind of guy and he's that kind of leader that even though I thought he was, if there was one player that wasn't the reason for the loss, it was him. I thought he still played very good. It was a couple plays he probably could, would have taken back. But even knowing that, I think Jalen Hurts is the kind of guy that will take that loss and say, it's my fault. Like, I didn't get the job done, even though it wasn't his fault. And knowing that gives me the ability to see that I could see this team bouncing back in a big way, like putting up a 30 spot. I definitely.
So as I'm breaking down, I'm looking at as you're talking, I'm looking at the Colts team numbers, and it's given me a change in my thought process for this game. So the Colts average as an offense 226 passing yards a game, but their defense only gives up 196 passing yards a game. They average over 110 yards rushing given up their defense a game. Compared to even with Jonathon Taylor, they still don't average 100 rushing yards a game. So maybe this is a week where Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen see that we think we're bad at stopping the run. Well, the Colts are really bad at stopping the run as well. Is this a game finally where we come out running the ball instead of trying to be the pass team that everybody thinks that we want to be? Is this a game where Miles Sanders can eat? I want to see more of this coaching staff make adjustments to schemes and game plans on a week-to-week basis. You don't have to be a run team. You don't have to be a nickel or dime defensive scheme team. You could be whatever you need to be each week, depending on your opponent. And that's what we don't see enough of. They have this identity, this in their mind of their identity, and they don't care week to week. This is a week where you hand the ball off to Miles Sanders the first 2 plays of the game. And we'll see if they do that. But that kind of surprised me when I looked at the numbers just now, how much more effective we could be against the run or running the ball against this team.
The problem that I see is that we say this every week, Phil,
Exactly.
and every single week it doesn't change. But you're right. Maybe this is the week. Maybe they finally, maybe a light bulb finally turns on it, and Sirianni says, "Hey guys, maybe we should try to run the ball a little bit." Because I remember last year when that light bulb turned on, and it was very evident. Like, it was so evident on the results, on the game plan where, they kind of just went to the run. Do you think that the fact that Jalen Hurts doesn't have near as many rushing yards this year has anything to do with him kind of maybe trying to prove people, like, overprove that he's not?
It's like going back to that. Remember how there were years that Donovan tried to prove that he was a pocket passer, and he would just sit back there and throw those worm balls, as they were called back then, even though he had no wide receivers and whatnot. I think the lack of rushing, the Jalen Hurts thing, it's partly that. It is. But it's not as much as you think, because they still have plenty of design runs for Jalen Hurts on a regular basis. I think it's more just the simple fact that you've got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So I think you don't have to run the ball as much with Jalen Hurts because you have those weapons. And that leads me to the next thing. Big key to this game. What do the Eagles do without Dallas Goedert? I mean, somebody has to step up. I mean, Grant Calcaterra has 1 catch on the year. Jack Stoll has like 7 or 8 catches on the year. They're not going to fill that void. They activated Tyree Jackson from the injured list, and he's on the active 53-man roster. Don't know if he'll dress or suit for Sunday or not, but you can't expect your 3 tight ends. We go out and get these defensive tackles. They didn't bring in a tight end. Somebody's got to take up some space in the middle of the field and fill that, at least space. No defense is going to scheme against Jack Stoll, but somebody's got to do something. Where do the Eagles go to fill that void?
It's a good question. I think
is running the ball more. Is that how you fill that void? By running the ball more, draws more of your linebackers and safeties closer to the box? and then that gives more space for, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to eat? Do you find a way? Can Zach Pascal's a thicker wide receiver? Can Zach Pascal run some of the – because Dallas Goedert lines up sometimes in the slot and as a wide receiver. Can we see more Zach Pascal in a Dallas Goedert route running kind of – I'm trying to figure out the right word there, but fill that void to an extent. I don't know what you do there, but the loss of Dallas Goedert for the next 4 weeks is going under the radar massively on how big of a deal it is.
It's a crucial loss. It's brutal. Like, Dallas Goedert was really having, a phenomenal season. And we talked about how coming into the year when A.J. Brown came, that it wasn't all even – like, A.J. Brown's production stat-wise was only part of what was so great about having A.J. Brown. It was what he did for the rest of the guys. Well, you could say the same thing about Dallas Goedert. Having Dallas Goedert as that weapon that can basically run every single route as a tight end, probably the most complete tight end in football. I mean, blocking and playing.
What did I say at the trade deadline? Our depth at tight end was an issue. Dallas Goedert has missed time every single year of his career so far. And now, look, he's missing time again, and we've got no replacement for him at this point.
And I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I will say that I think the Eagles are very high on Tyree Jackson. And
yeah, they were when
they've been high on him since he's come into the to this organization.
Yes.
And I'm not saying he's going to fill the void, but I think that he'd be the guy that if I had to be a betting man, that they tried to use to kind of jump into.
I mean, you can't expect much out of him,
Oh, yeah, you're not going to get it this week.
He hasn't played. When was the last time he even played a football game? You know what I mean? So
probably like a year, right?
It's been over a year since he's been on a football field, so you can't expect it yet. But I did warn everybody. Look, this is a big issue, the loss of Dallas Goedert. And it doesn't just affect, what you do with those targets. It's going to affect how effective A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are as well. Because now that safety that would be guarding and trying to stop Dallas Goedert, well, you could put a linebacker on Jack Stoll if you need to. Hell, you could drop a defensive tackle into coverage to stop Jack Stoll probably. So there's going to have to be something in the game plan to scheme a way to bring those guys closer to the box to open up some space for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I do think that you may go to a more traditional 3 wide receivers with Quez Watkins, and you utilize Quez Watkins more. Now, I was very happy with Quez the last few weeks, besides obviously the fumbles. Like, if he could just hold on to the football, he's definitely made headway.
There, we win the game. And if he holds on to the football there, the Dallas Goedert injury maybe never happens because maybe we're not fighting for that extra yards on that next drive.
I can't disagree with you on anything. I agree. I think, but I will say I think it is a positive that Quez Watkins has seemed to have kind of turned the corner lately. He's getting more involved in the game, which to me, that tells me that he's getting open. Like, he's getting open and Jalen's seeing it. So I think Quez Watkins could be kind of an X factor that, they kind of use him more.
All right, hang on real quick. We're gonna pause in the action real quick. Today's show is brought to you by Gents Barber Lounge. Check out one of their 2 great locations in Fishtown and Old City and book your appointment today. Gents owns the craft and it shows, rated the #1 barbershop on Yelp in the Philadelphia area. Multiple award-winning barbers and able to handle any style cut, adult or kid. Take a look at some of their great work here real quick. Gents Barber Lounge there again, Fishtown and Old City. All right, Jason, we're 39 minutes in to this show, and I do want to spend a few minutes talking Sixers. So let's wrap this Eagles stuff up here. Predictions and key. How does this go in the Eagles' favor this week?
Okay, so game prediction. I'm going to go with the same score that I said on Monday. 31-17 Eagles. I think the game plan, I think the Eagles come out and I do think that they are going to kind of do what you said, come out and try to run the ball early, get kind of more of a balanced attack, a balanced game plan. I do think Jonathon Taylor will get his. I think that's inevitable. Even if we do improve defensively against the run, I think he still will get some yards and he will score a touchdown. But at the end of the game, as I said, Eagles 31-17. I think it's going to be a big A.J. Brown game. I think he's not the kind of guy that's going to be happy with his performance. It's probably the worst game he played as an Eagle. I know he, I guess, tweaked an injury or something. I know he was like he had to go into the locker room and get taped or whatever. So I'm not using it as an excuse. Like he's a dominant player, and I think he's a very proud player. He's not going to come out after last week and shit the bed. So I look for A.J. Brown, big game, but I do think Devonta Smith will actually get a touchdown.
Okay. I'm going to go pretty similar. I had originally written down 31-17 as well, but I have to be different. So now I have to rethink this all out. I can't have the exact same prediction as you, but we'll say 30-17. No, I don't know. Look, it's stopping the run, and it's getting after Matt Ryan. This is a game where it should be an easy win. But again, we've seen this script before where if you can't get after the quarterback, guys like Matt Ryan could. I mean, we still without Avonte Maddox. If we can't stop Jonathon Taylor and if we can't get after Matt Ryan, this game can. I don't want people. The Colts are 4-5-1. They're not a bad team. Everyone thinks the Colts are this falling apart franchise because they fired their coach. They benched their quarterback for 2 weeks and whatnot. This is a team that still, hypothetically speaking, could even win their division. I know the Titans won last night. It's going to be a little bit harder. But if the Colts win this game, they're still only 2 games back in their division. So the Colts season is not over. So the Eagles need to be able to come out on Sunday and play as if this is an important game. They have to come out and play. If this is not a pushover Houston Texans game where you could put out a half-assed effort and still win by double digits. They're going to have to play their A-plus game this week. No doubt about it. And I think they do, because this coaching staff has proven one thing, is that they don't dwell on the past and they get these guys ready to go every single week. So losing last week, you've talked about it in the past, that adversity, that one, having that loss and having that, bump in the road and how that can change things, if you get it sooner. That's how it's all going to play out to me. Now, I had this game as a loss before the season started, but I think the Eagles come out and win to make up for last week's loss. But it's going to be closer than people think. I'm going to go 28-20, Eagles win. It's going to be close. And the Eagles are going to, I don't know the exact score, but it's going to be something like 21-17 in the fourth quarter. It's going to be a close game, and it's going to mean that the Eagles are going to have to score late to solidify this win. Where last week they weren't able to, get that late score to win, they're going to need that late score this week, and they're going to do it because they're not going to let that happen 2 weeks in a row.
So what you're telling me is we're going to have a lot of agita on Sunday.
Yes, there's going to be a lot of agita on Sunday for sure. 1 o'clock game, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a rough one. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm actually off work. I'm excited. I get to watch a game finally.
There you go. That's good. That's a privilege of you writing your own schedule now, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's flip the script for the last 10, 15 minutes of this show. Sixers, Jason. The weirdest thing in the world. You play 3 games in 4 days and then get 4 days off. We bitched about who wrote the Eagles schedule. First and foremost, I want to bitch whoever wrote the Sixers schedule as well. The way the Sixers schedule has played out so far this year is insane. But they're 4 days off. Obviously, Doc Rivers did not get fired like I hoped. He's still there. But you come off of this little 4-game stretch, which was important because Joel Embiid's banged up. The team was tired. They were exhausted. And you come off this break, and your first game is just like the first game of the season against the Milwaukee Bucks, one of the best teams of the last 5 years, not just this year. Giannis, the whole package. 4 days off. I am actually super excited for tonight's game because I want to see if the 4 days off killed the momentum or they actually use these 4 days off to actually get better as a team. We know Doc Rivers is not much of a practice guy, but 4 days off in a row, plenty of time. That's very rarely that happens in NBA. You don't get many real practices in the NBA season because there's not many days off. I'm very, very curious to see what the Sixers did in these 4 days and how they come out. The first 5-10 minutes of the game, how they come out, because that'll tell me what they've been doing for the last 4 days. What are your thoughts on that?
I like it. I agree with you. I think that if the Sixers can take the last couple of games and what they did in those games and kind of just keep rolling forward, you definitely could see, them making some headway to get back in, where they need to be, where the Sixers should be, where we thought they'd be at this point. Obviously, I think the big key is Joel Embiid. Like, can Joel Embiid continue to dominate the way that he dominated those last few games? Now, I get it. You're going up against a much better opponent. Mm-hmm. You have the Milwaukee Bucks, who, in my opinion, are, as you said, the class of.
But they're also banged up. They're missing a lot of guys. But it doesn't matter how many guys you're missing when you're going up against Milwaukee Bucks. As long as Giannis is out there, onto the Kupo, it's always a problem.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
and Brook Lopez, their center, is one of those centers that always gives Joel trouble because Brook Lopez likes to hang out at the 3-point arc and for a 7-foot guy, just take 3-point shots. So that eliminates, Joel under the basket. But I think you bring up the thing about how Joel comes out because of dominating. I just want to say, again, I already apologized for criticizing Joel Embiid at the wrong time. But Joel Embiid doesn't need to come out and score 59 points to dominate.
Mm-mm.
Joel Embiid needs to come out with energy, excitement. Joel Embiid needs to come out and just be the leader. And that's what I want to see. I don't care if Joel Embiid scores 20 points tonight or 59 points. As long as he's not moping around because the game's not going his way. Just because Joel Embiid doesn't get 30 shots doesn't mean he's got to be in, not in the game flow. That, to me, is what I want to see tonight. And 4 days off can give Joel Embiid plenty of time to rest that shoulder, plenty of time to rest those legs. I need to see the energy level from Joel Embiid tonight.
I mean, absolutely. Like, it's all about attitude. If he comes out there and he has a good attitude and he's having fun and he's being the Joel that you're talking about, everything else is going to come into play. Like, it's when he gets into that funk where he's, moping around. You love to use that word. Like, it's like
my new favorite. It's like ancillary. It's my new favorite word.
When he's sulking, or making faces that he's mad, at the way the game's getting called, whatever, all that kind of stuff. Like that all is observed by your teammates. And when you're the guy that's supposed to be the leader, they kind of follow that. So if you're moping around and you're sulking, do you not think that that's going to affect how your teammates play? Mm-hmm. Absolutely will. But if you come out there and, as you said, you're having fun and you have energy, it doesn't matter if you score 59 points. You don't have to. Mm-hmm. The game is just going to be better. The game flow is going to be better because your teammates are going to actually be more amped up because they're going to see, wow, Joel's like, playing like the Joel that we want to see, mm-hmm. as opposed to the Joel that kind of goes into his little tantrums and gets upset. Now, I get it.
Embiid is not the problem. But he is the problem if he doesn't come out with the energy that he needs to come out with. If Joel Embiid comes out as a disinterested player, even if it's just sometimes, that's a problem. That's a major problem, especially without James Harden out there. Joel Embiid has to be the best player on the court tonight. And normally, let's be honest. Normally, when he goes up against Giannis and the Bucks, he looks for Giannis and he tries to be the guy that has to cover Giannis. Like, he gets up for these big moments for sure. But it's also he's got to get up for the big moments every game, not just sometimes. And that's the problem. That's the problem. I know I offended so many people, Jason. So many people with my Joe Embiid comments.
Well, you apologized, and I don't think
I shouldn't have had to apologize. Damn it.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people also took you wrong. I think people just took it like you're coming at Joel Embiid, and you're not. You were simply stating that a 59-point game in the regular season is not something to be celebrated if the team comes out at the end of the year and does the same thing and bows out in round 2. Now, if he gets 59-point games all throughout the season and we go to the Eastern Conference Finals, yeah, then shit. Then it means a lot. It means a lot.
Yeah, no, I just need to see more from Joel Embiid. I do. And again, Mark's getting in with these things about how great he is. Yeah, but he could be even greater if he puts it together every single night. He could win the MVP averaging 20. He didn't win the MVP last year averaging over 30 points. First big man to do that since Shaq. And that's fine. He didn't win the MVP. But he could win the MVP scoring 25 points.
You got Mark pissed off.
Mark's pissed off. Good. My day's better because Mark's upset now. That's all there is to it. It's made my day pissing Mark off. The problem is that he doesn't get up for every single game. Now, there's video from I don't know if they had practice yesterday or just a shoot around yesterday. There's video of him and Tyrese Maxey goofing around and having fun. We haven't seen that this year. Not enough of the laughing and the fun and the good vibes. But the good vibes come and start with Joel Embiid. When Joel Embiid's having fun, when Joel Embiid's fully engaged, this team is unbeatable, even without James Harden. So again, it's on Joel Embiid to come out with the energy, to come out with some kind of look. It's an ESPN game tonight. All eyes on them. I'm sure those ESPN announcers. I don't know who's going to call the game tonight, but I'm sure whoever it is, they're gonna bring up some of the criticisms that I have. They're also going to bring up the great games. If it's Stan Van Gundy on tonight, I mean, is it Stan or Jeff? Jeff Van Gundy was the one I like. Very critical at the right times of a lot of NBA stars. He does not pull any punches. So it's going to come on Joel Embiid to make a statement in front of the national audience tonight that what happened earlier in this season, he needs to rob into his Batman. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Giannis is 11-3 this year, and he hasn't had Chris Middleton all year. Superstars, MVP players, elevate the rest of their teams. They don't need Robin. They just need some foot soldiers to help them out. So I think you're a little off base there, saying that he needs somebody. He's good enough that he doesn't need anybody.
The Bucks are 11-3, dude.
Yeah.
And
they've had an entire season without their number 2, and their number 3 has been out for a big portion of the season, and they're still 11-3. Big difference here because Giannis comes out to play every night. Giannis puts the effort out every single night. He elevates the other guys that are on that team. That's all I want from Joel. I just want Joel to come out tonight and be the dominant man that he is supposed to be and play with the energy that he needs to play with to energize this team. That's all there is to it. And if Mark really, really wants to keep pushing me on this Joel topic, I'm just going to bash Matisse Thybulle, and then we'll really, really see Mark go off here.
I mean, I guess
they're listening. Mark loves his Matisse.
I mean, I have to believe that what you're saying is going to come to fruition. I think Joel obviously he obviously cares. I just think he gets in his own way sometimes with trying to do too much sometimes. I think you have to stay within yourself. You have to know your game. He's a dominant player. And yes, Giannis is a dominant player. I mean, so it's like you're going up against dominant. Mm-hmm. I do look at these kind of games as a game where you're going to have some of your other players step up. Like, I think Tyrese Maxey absolutely has to have a good game tonight. He can't come out and have one of those games where he looks like a deer in headlights. He needs to come out and be focused. And, I look at the guy that I still think is I don't want to say underrated, but he's definitely underappreciated in this town, and that's Tobias Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Tobias Harris, like it or not, he's one of your better players, and he needs to play. With James Harden being out, that hurts. I mean, a lot of people were mad and saying, why did we bring back James Harden? James Harden was playing some of the best basketball he's played in 10 years. Mm-hmm. James Harden was not the problem. Mm-mm. I still think Doc Rivers.
Early in the season, it was Joel Embiid the problem.
I think Doc Rivers is still the ultimate issue, and I know you agree with that because you wish he was gone every day.
You had a perfect 4-day stretch to instill a new offense, a new team, a new philosophy. They're going to look back on this season and this 4 days off stretch as the moment where they could have made that change.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, I don't see the Sixers winning tonight. The Bucks are just the Bucks and Giannis just have the Sixers number. I just don't see a scenario even at home. Now, they can lose tonight and still make a statement, if that makes sense. They can come out tonight and get beat because Giannis is the best player in the world or one of the best players in the world, and they're a great team and a great coach team that if they put up the effort and lose a close game tonight, you could still make a statement by saying, we're back, we just got beat tonight. Does that make sense? And that's what I'm hoping for. Win or lose, I'm just looking for the statements to be made tonight.
Oh, it absolutely makes sense. I think if you show the team, if you show on that, it is national TV, you said?
Yeah, it's on ESPN tonight.
So if you show the national audience that you can keep up with the Bucks, yeah, I think you're doing something. Because right now, like I said, they're 11-3. Mm-hmm. They've been one of the best, if not the best team in the Eastern Conference for the last 5 years since Giannis has played, coming to his prime. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you.
You've got a stretch coming up. You got the tough game. You got the back. So you get 4 days off. So you go back to back Saturday and Sunday, 4 days off, and then they go back to back again. They're playing tonight and tomorrow against Minnesota. Tuesday's the big game, man. We've been waiting for it. Brooklyn, Ben Simmons comes to town. But then you go on the road to play Charlotte and 2 games in Orlando. So they can make up some headway against some, I mentioned the Ben Simmons thing with Brooklyn, but Brooklyn's a bad team. So they've got a stretch of games coming up after tonight of a lot of winnable games. So win or lose tonight, they can use tonight to make the statement and then go on this run. And next thing you know, we're 4 or 5 games over 500 again. But got to make the statement tonight.
Absolutely. So what do you think? What are you going to – how many points is Joel going to get tonight?
I have no idea. I hate making basketball predictions. I hate them. It's so hard to get them right. But I'm going to say it's going to be something like a 105-101 game tonight.
Will he have over 30?
No. He does not put up those kind of numbers against the Bucks very often. He's going to be more like 24, 25 points, 10 rebounds. For the Sixers to win, Tyrese Maxey needs to score 30 points tonight. But just like I said last game, it didn't happen because Joel put up 59. But it's going to be somebody else that has to step up, whether it's DeAnthony Melton, whether it's PJ Tucker, who's a ghost at this point, whether it's Daniel House. Somebody else on the bench or one of the non-big three need to put up big numbers for them to win tonight.
We shall see, I guess.
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap up. I just see Mark jumping back in with more comments, No way. No way, Mark. No, not happening. Trend in the AM right here on DSM Media. We'll be back next week, Monday, Overreaction Monday, breaking down this Eagles game against the Colts. However this weekend goes with the Sixers, we will see. Everybody have a great weekend. And, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow, especially if you're doing this on replay. I still read all the comments. Everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.
Go Bird.
And Philadelphia has it.